come join. Okay, just very quickly, come sit down. I'll do it anyway. So Rico, I'm gonna give you. what's your name? Sorry, introduce yourself. Sorry. I'm terrible at this hosting stuff. I always forget all the key bits. I'm Dan.
Hi, I'm Nawaz.
Nice.
So I'm a freelance writer for Decrypt Media.
Oh, I know Decrypt Media. Just same as Tim
Copeland. Yes, I work quite closely with Tim Copeland.
Yeah. So
one of the news editors there.
Because okay, whilst we're actually on the rap subject, okay, but very quickly, I've been practicing the noddle rap. Because I had to try and do it in under 25 seconds because I missed the Lightning conference, but they were going to put a video of me doing it every time someone made a payment or something like that. Anyway, so it goes. It's about the noddle. Have you heard of a noddle box?
No, I'm not. Please let me know.
Okay, so I'll teach you about it now. It's a small box where it's a Bitcoin, full node, and Lightning node, and it goes. Excuse me, because I don't want to cause alarm, but you miss monetary liberty in your palm. Bitcoin, Lightning, full nodes on an arm. Support the network, run a node, not a farm. Got not a black box direct from model it. So there's only 21 and I'm going to hodl it. Plug play set up and you want to model it on arrival tweet a box and I might even model it. Not just a node, BTC paste over Bitcoin paper is sitting in a networking observer, upgradable, expandable, trusted observer via pillar for the network whilst you feed your Bitcoin further. I've got 1 to 21 right before I hit the Fox, get involved and run a node, start verifying blocks. Not just mining, stop attacking nodes. All to help out Fox on the hodl is a doddle with a noddle back box. Bitcoin corner, what's allowed, not just yet too technical to unhodl the cloud. You also get financial self-sovereignty. The banks you can forget before I go. Please check the video on World Crypto. Yeah. So that was just for you, Rico. Yeah. So
I can see why they call you the Crypto Raptor now.
Yeah. The sad thing is that the only reason I'm called Crypto Raptor is because I used to be Cryptopoly or Satoshi Swagamoto, but then I got stuck on the last line of like the first rap that I wrote, and I needed to find something that rhymed with rapture, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to change my name. And so, yeah, so I'm slowly transitioning into the Crypto Raptor. But yeah, so Tim interviewed me actually, and there was a bit of a hoo-ha after, you see.
Oh really?
Because when I'm not a rapper, you see, I'm an entertainer, as it were, or at least I attempt to. But when people refer to you as a rapper, rap fans get really pissed off. So I'm like, no, it's just not a rap. No, you know. But yeah, no, so it's a cool interview. I think so. Decrypt Media, you're doing journalists covering events, is it?
Yeah, so to be actually honest, I actually live 5 minutes away from this event. So this was, I think this is the shortest commute I've ever come to a Bitcoin conference.
Brilliant.
But yeah, don't normally work on Sundays, but yeah, it's a bit of a one-off event. But it's quite a nice, actually relaxed event today. So I think it's probably about 100 or so people, but it seems kind of the core Bitcoiners are kind of here rather than newbies, which is, it kind of takes me back to what Bitcoin kind of was in 2013, 2014, kind of that kind of atmosphere.
Pre-shill,
pre-ICO boom, pre-Ethereum, pre-smart contracts. When it was just really about selling money.
Pre-Ethereum. Yeah. It's like Prometheus, but pre-Ethereum. I like it.
But no, Decrypt Media actually. So I used to work for CoinRevit before that, but currently writing for Decrypt Media. But we normally focus on long-form content. So yeah, I'm interested to try and get a couple of in-depth interviews today, and try and make some content coming soon. But yeah, do give me a follow on Twitter, Nawaz Crypto.
And who are you looking forward to interviewing today? So, Decrypt Media as well. It's decryptmedia.
So it's decrypt.co is decrypt.co. They did actually, it was actually called decryptmedia.com last year, but they'd actually changed the name. But we're actually growing pretty fast actually, and there's a lot of people coming to the website, so it's great to get a bit of traction, really. It's nice.
And anyone you're interested in speaking to today in particular?
Yeah, so I actually interviewed Thomas Hunt maybe about 4 or 5 months ago. I think in CoinFest when we were up in Manchester. Yeah. So back then he told me his advice was to hodl plus profits is kind of the best trading strategy. I think Bitcoin was about 4,000 or 5,000 on that day, so it's gone up since then. So maybe I think his advice seemed to work out. But no, I'm maybe looking forward to having a chat with him today, because I kind of think, Thomas has been in this space since 2013. And, he did his talk on stage and he was talking about, he was one of the original people, with Tone Vays, with a couple other people who just wanted to talk about Bitcoin. Yeah. And, I tuned into many of those kind of shows myself. I think he said he did 600 shows in 2 years, which was pretty incredible, pretty committed. Yeah. And, I really see him as one of the warriors in the space. And, he just didn't stop talking about it before it became a real thing, and Bitcoin is a real thing today, so it's exciting times.
It's he was actually one of the shows I was saying earlier that I heard about Bitcoin. I didn't really get into the loss of it until like 3 or 4 months after. 3 or 4 months after I'd bought a load of graphics cards and mined shitcoins, and then lost loads of money in the peak 2013 thing, and then I was like, oh, but I understand Bitcoin now because I was forced to, because I was invested in it so much. But no, like when I saw his show, I was like, it was still a bit hazy to me, this whole concept. And as silly as it sounds, the ridiculousness of the hat, the psychedelic backgrounds made me think, oh, now it's fitting into place. Like, you know, I kind of saw the zaniness of it attractive, and then, you know, the anarchistic side, and then you get onto how it's better than the existing system, what the existing systems offer, what they don't offer, how they restrict you and censor you in certain ways. And I think he's just a great educator. He's so well read, and he's someone who's been really good, just consistently delivering content through the ups, through the downs, through all of that.
Yep. I mean, you know, the one thing that I think is stayed the same is this: there's only ever going to be 21 Bitcoins, and for me, it's the world's biggest scarce decentralized asset. Some people, you know, don't recognize today what is protecting that scarcity. So, you know, when I talk about Bitcoins, I always talk about there's 50 to 100,000 nodes on the network. And I always think about the mining hash rate and the mining hash power. And just to give you some figures, there's about $2.5 billion worth of hardware, which is online at the moment mining Bitcoin. And those miners are paying bills of 500 grand roughly an hour, and they're mining 700 grand of Bitcoin. And, you know, they've been running nonstop for 10.5 years. And, you know, what people are going to realize is Bitcoin is here to stay. And I think, you know, when you see these, I was talking to Steve, the conference organizer, earlier today, and he kind of said he's maybe operating this conference at a bit of a loss at the moment. But he says, you know, he believes in the message. He invested back early and he can afford to kind of fund this thing. And he said, if there's just one new person today who comes in, who learns something about that aspect, then, you know, it's all kind of paid off. So, you know.
It's weird. It's like it's an industry where everyone kind of, or at least some people they either are in for life, you know, they have the epiphany, or that's it, you know, they're burnt and then they're out and then it becomes bad. But it's amazing how much people want to share, and maybe it was the fact that Bitcoin's built on open source technology, and actually I didn't really have much interest or know about open source before Bitcoin. It was actually what made me learn about, and now I'm like, open source rocks. Is amazing. Like the fact that people can collaborate and, you know, all over the world. I did my dissertation on intellectual property rights and the impact of intellectual property rights on developing economies. And not that I was an economist, not that I basically it was a very over my head stuff. But I realized about how much like the guarding of intellectual property hurts the world, and then how much more amazing things can be done when people collaborate and work together and still get the recognition for what they've done. I think what could be better is if there was a way of monetizing that a bit better for the people that contribute. Yeah, I think you're getting some of that with other services. But yeah, the fact that open source, it's the open sourcing of ideas. It's the dissemination of information that you've sponged up, and you're like, I have to let people know. I feel like it's like almost like the preach thing. It's like, I need to let people, I feel like I should go and stand on a corner and be like, yo, you need to learn about Bitcoin, and, you know, stand next to one of the people or whatever, and just be like, yo, Bitcoin, don't forget about that message, Bitcoin. So any other conferences you're going this year?
I was in, CC Forum a couple of days or a couple of weeks ago in London. Interesting to see.
Frontline, what was that like?
To be honest, you know, I did actually have a little chat with Craig, Mr. CSW, Craig Saoshi, right? You know, this guy is just a crazy character, to be honest. I mean, you know, I heard today that he's withdrawn his court filings. You know, the fact that he's claiming around to try to be Satoshi and obviously shilling his BS feed projects, for me, you know, is not really the best place feed. But I think a few people kind of put him in his place, Tone Vays and stuff on stage. But the other best thing I saw there was Dr. Doom, Nura Rabini.
Yeah.
You can maybe check it out online, but I did do a bit of a wrap up with him, the debate he had with him and Roger Ver.
Yeah.
I spoke to Roger after the debate, and when I went to actually speak to Mr. Rabini, he said, sorry, I got no time for you, got a plane to catch. But he was pretty much heckled off stage. And, you know, his message that he basically said, there's nothing wrong with the fiat system. There's nothing wrong with negative interest rates. There's nothing wrong with money printing. There's nothing wrong with quantitative easing.
Oh, the shit people say to protect their bags.
It is crazy. And, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, the New York Fed printed over $250 billion worth of crypto. $250 billion worth of fiat just overnight, just to protect the liquidity of the rates. And, that is less than the market cap of Bitcoin today. So, never underestimate how small, how early adopter this phase is.
So what you mean is they minted 17 million Bitcoin worth of fiat.
Yes.
Ah,
there's a great website which you should check out called fiatmarketcap.com.
Yeah.
You can see the market cap of all national state cryptocurrencies in Bitcoin, which is obviously, in my mind, the only true digitally scarce asset in the world today. So, we'll see where this thing's going. But no, it's absolutely interesting time. But I don't know, do you check out the 21 is not enough guy, his little lightning ATM? I don't know if you
is that the one over the cardboard box?
Yes.
I've had a look. He wasn't there when I went over, so I want to see it. So you literally put in pennies and you get Satoshis.
Yeah, it's great. The
nice.
Best thing is you actually, I think I saw him put a pound coin in the machine, and it comes up, it was like 12,000 Satoshis or something like that. He had his blue wallet in his hand and he scanned it across and it sent and received instantly. And, I remember back in 2013, 14, it was quite maybe expensive. Well, back then it probably wasn't expensive to send Bitcoin transaction, but certainly slow, 10 minutes. And when you're showing it to other people, you can't do that. But with the Lightning Network as it is today, you can literally send one Satoshi across the network, instant confirmations.
Yeah, or you can also do that with Bitcoin ABC. Joking. No, Lightning is incredible, isn't it? It just, the only thing for me, I think, it has its minor faults. I think it's a very, very rapidly evolving layer, and I think that it's got so much to offer, and it's going to be like the internet, where it's like, oh, we can use it for this and that, like David Bowie, like in the 90s, it's like, oh, the internet's like an alien, it's going to do all sorts of crazy ass stuff. And like Lightning networks, all these different other systems we're building on top of Bitcoin, and we're using it as not just a transfer of money and a store of value, but like using it as a protocol, using it as a security protocol, using it as the most secure blockchain on earth. So why don't you secure other stuff, timestamp it, all these like other crazy ideas that are slowly sort of building out. And I love Lightning. I think I did say that the novel rap, that's all Lightning. Lightning. What's the word? Inspired. Are there any other technologies, Bitcoin related, like in terms of side chains, anything like that you're also looking into?
I actually spoke a couple of weeks ago. I had an exclusive interview with Samson Mao. So I met him in London while he was on his bit of a global tour he's on. And he was talking to me a little bit about the Liquid network and BTC backed side chain. So I think this is a new kind of area. For me, Bitcoin is a scarce asset. And when you do pegged side chains into the network, you can have token sales, you can do things all on top of Bitcoin, essentially, or with Bitcoin as your reserve backing. So I think that's a really interesting kind of area. I know RSK are doing other things in this space as well. I mean, I must admit to you, I'm kind of a open blockchain guy. So, like I'm not adverse to Ethereum and these other cryptocurrencies as well. I do always think, I always go back to the Ethereum white paper, and it always said that their aim was to make unstoppable code. I really do hope they kind of deliver on that mission, and if they, as kind of
they can stop it from locking up 150 million in the DAO.
Things like the DAO, I think, are an interesting learning curve event. And it was before I actually got involved in Bitcoin, but Bitcoin had his own little inflation bug back. I think it was a year and a half into its code when, for a couple of milliseconds or a couple of minutes, too many Bitcoins were kind of printed, but people managed to figure out that code, and we got back to the right chain, the chain that ended up splitting. But I think these are learning events, and I personally don't think that Ethereum would be able to hard fork the way it did back in 2015 today. And they've built an amount of scale at the moment, and for me, it's another open public blockchain. And I'm interested to see what sort of dApps can be delivered on this, and if. But I'm also interested in kind of like laps as well today. But
laps. Lightning
apps. I don't know if you've ever used any laps.
Satoshi's Place.
Satoshi's Place.
Yeah, did lots of writing and stuff on there.
Yeah. There's a great one there. There's a little lightning roulette.
Roulette. No, that's cool.
Play that. It's that was my first experience ever with the Lightning Network. I loaded up a blue wallet. I put a couple of Satoshis on there. I sent one Satoshi over to Lightning Roulette. Didn't need to create an email account, nothing like that. Made a bet on red or black, so I put it on red. Spun the wheel, won it back, won 2 Satoshis, and sent that 2 Satoshis back to me. But the most incredible thing when I did that was I managed to, with sending a very small amount of Bitcoin on the Lightning Network, to send 1 Satoshi's worth over to a server. They confirmed they received it. They took a bet. They took my bet and they won the bet, and then I paid it back to me. And I always tell people how small a value 1 Satoshi is. So I've got this great anecdote I must share with you. So commercial price of sand is $30 a ton, right? So imagine just sitting over there in that corner, you see a whole ton of sand, pretty heavy, pretty big quantity of sand. If you go over there and you pick up 10 grains of that sand, that is the value of 1 Satoshi. Wow. And imagine cool. You can now, through the Lightning Network, instantly send that across to somebody on the other side of the world, and they can confirm receipt.
Why haven't we been able to send 10 grains of sand over the other side of the world? I know. Like teleporting, like when is it? No, but it's absolutely incredible. Like the fact that it's, people go, there's a lot of misconceptions about Bitcoin, and people think that obviously for layer 1 it is a bit slow, it is a bit like, you've got to be careful and not take risk if you want a Lambo versus if you're going to have a coffee or whatever. But Lightning Network, boom, straight away you've got instant payments, you've got ridiculously low fees, you've got side chains now where and Adam Back, I think he tweeted a while back about the fact that he thinks that shitcoins will move on to Bitcoin side chains, because why have a chain that can be hacked, when you can have the most secure in the world, and have your shitcoin and eat it, like cake and eat it or whatever, I just, there's so many cool emerging technologies, and there's the thing that Mad Bitcoin said to me a while back was that he envisages a day where there's like layers, there's lightning layers on top of lightning. It will get to that stage, and that's a really cool kind of idea. I just think that it's such an amazing like tree where all these different things can branch off, these new technologies, new ways of doing things.
All open source,
all open source,
all open access, all unstoppable. I mean, that's very much the story of Lightning, when there was 3 distinct teams who built their own protocols and they all came together, they all worked together. It's obviously now being implemented today with a network of, hundreds of wallets almost coming online, different things like BTC Pay Server, which we saw, some demos of downstairs. But, many years ago, there was this dream of Bitcoin becoming a payment network and a medium exchange. I think with Lightning, that's slowly starting to happen.
Yeah.
It's only a year and a half old. I just think, where was Bitcoin a year and a half old?
Yeah.
And, Lightning, there's, for me, the smartest minds in the world working on this project. And you know what? They're working on it for free. They're working on it because it's their passion. And people don't do these for other companies. People don't do things. They will do it for Bitcoin, though. And it's an exciting space.
They work hard. I think that's true, isn't it? You work harder when there's passion behind it than when you're just getting the money. I mean, the money, you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting money for doing this stuff. That's great. I finish at 5 and then that's it. But like the passion is, I'm up until 4 in the morning learning this. Like, I won't stop until I've learned X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I think that since I started testing Bitcoin sidechains for a company, specifically Commerce Block, and as soon as I started delving into, which I hadn't done before, Python, and I just like, I've got to learn this. I've got to learn Python. I've got to learn Linux. And and now I'm just slowly leveling up and like trying to build. But it wasn't like money that motivated me, because it was the wanting to learn, it's wanting to absorb information, be able to tell other people and shout about it from the rooftops that this is cool and it does this, Y, and X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I just think it's such a cool thing. And in quoting one of my raps, open source, it's Satoshi way. Yeah. So this year you said you went to Honey Badger and CC4. Do you Honey Badger?
No, I didn't go, but I'm maybe planning on going on a future occasion. I had, there's so many great speakers actually. Adam Back was there. There was Peter Todd was there. A lot of cool developers and things. Yeah, a lot of interest. That's what you say yourself, or?
Oh yeah, no. I just went to like all trying to do as many as possible. So Honey Badger, and then a couple of weeks, and then Riga. No. HCPP Prague, then Transylvania, and then this one, and then tomorrow I'm flying out to Malta for the AI blockchain summit.
Sounds fun.
It's going to be so apparently, they've got old CSW there. It's going to be doing his thing, like speaking about what's he even speak about now? Like how do you? I don't mean this in a bad way, because he kind of brings it on himself. I mean, anyone could argue that it probably isn't people being nasty in general. He may be inciting them through various things, like the F word.
I mean, did you see his Halloween message?
No.
Just a few days ago.
Was it something like stupid?
With the pumpkin head. It was frankly weird, to be honest.
Oh, what's this? Because I think his parents are pumpkin farmers or something like that.
Was it? I'm not sure what the connection was with his past, but it was.
No, you can't trust a word he says.
Yeah, it was tweeted out by CoinGeek. You know, this pro Bitcoin SV
yeah,
or
Calvinaires, like
little media company.
BSV.
Yeah, it's quite weird when you read articles on there. They always say like they talk about Bitcoin, but they're really Bitcoin SV, and it's just fucking confusing, to be honest. But it's his Halloween message was just weird. But he named this pumpkin called Pumpkinhead, and then he said that Pumpkinhead's going to eat all the BTC. So I'm not sure exactly what's whether it's a bad address.
That's because he recently waffled on about he had some hissy fit in a forum and said that he was going to, in 2020, he's going to kill Bitcoin and no one knows, and there's underlying security issues, and that's the reason why no one's developed on BSV for 6 months, because they don't want to tell everyone what's been fixed that Bitcoin has missed and Bitcoin ABC has. So unfortunately, everyone, Craig Wright is going to kill Bitcoin next year. Which is very unfortunate. I'm sure it will happen. And it's around about the time that in fact, I'm not sure how the dynamics of it works. I'm not sure if it's before or after he stands out in the rain, like in Back to Future, waiting for someone to give him the private key to get to 1 million Bitcoin. I'm not sure. Maybe he can put it in a timetable. Maybe he can write it on a pumpkin. I don't know. But yeah, he's an interesting character. And you interviewed for Decrypt Media. So,
to be honest, I just had a chat with him. I didn't publish. I don't think anything he said was really noteworthy. I tried to ask him about his mining operation. So I think they have close to maybe like 1 exahash, which is about 100th of the Bitcoin network at the moment. So in my mind, it's just simply not enough to really protect consensus around their chain. There's a great website which I've been watching called coinmarketbook.cc.
CoinMarketBook, yeah.
Give it a shout out. But basically what they do is they look at what is the value of the order books protecting the value of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin actually has $350 million worth of liquidity. So that's basically $350 million worth of, I'm talking about big exchanges like BitMEX, Finex, Binance, people sitting there waiting to buy the dip. And some people say that this is a relative measure of the asset. Now, if you compare that to BSV, I think it's only a couple of million, which means if you had a couple of million, BSV claims to have a market cap of about 2.5 billion.
Yeah.
But I think that's poorly protected, and I'm not. I can't really see it holding that, to be honest.
The only thing is though about this is that we all know 51% attack, hardcore. Well, it doesn't quite kill a coin because Verge somehow survived like multiple. I wish they survived it. It's still going, still being used for Pornhub. But the thing that I don't get is if it's so easy to 51% attack, why doesn't like F2 Paul or someone like that just be like Bitcoin SV, like stop.
I think that you have to imagine there's this hardware. You either point it at BSV or you point it at Bitcoin, and at the moment, it's just too profitable for them to point at Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin hash rate has been on a bull run for the last 7-8 months, so, close to 100 exahash at the moment. And for me, this is a great sign of people who invest in hardware, investing for the long term, and they can see long-term value here. We just crossed 18 million Bitcoins mined, so there's only 3 million of those left, and
1 million's technically gone. Well, they reckon 4 million, don't they? Altogether is lost in some way. I can't imagine the amount that's in dead faucets and stuff.
Yeah, but Bitcoin it's a scarce digital asset, and the figure I always like to give is there's about 25 to 30 million dollar-based millionaires around in the world today. They can't all divest 1% of their funds and buy Bitcoin because it's there's not enough Bitcoins exist for that.
Interesting, yeah. When you think about it like that, it's very interesting. And but not the millionaires couldn't have 1 Bitcoin.
They couldn't divest 1% of their funds.
1% of their funds.
Because they'd have to divest 10 grand because they're a dollar-based millionaires, right?
Yeah.
But
which is roughly 1 Bitcoin.
Yeah. So Bitcoin are only, I think, 150, 160 billion market cap at the moment. Gold for me is the next big target, 7 trillion market cap. it does everything that gold does, but better because, you know, the hard limit is very much secure. It's digitally transferable. It's scarce. It's protected by this network of nodes. It's protected by this hashing network. It's not gone down in 10.5 years. So, you know, I think long-term fundamentals of Bitcoin, you know, I'm a big fan of the Plan B's stock-to-flow ratio. I don't know if you've seen that. I mean, what are your own thoughts on the stock-to-flow ratio?
Well, I don't know the maths behind it, but it sounds kind of logical. I think was it Safety as well that put that in Bitcoin standard, and it kind of makes sense. But at the same time, the market dynamics are so difficult for Bitcoin because it's such an emotional system and it's emotionally driven, and you know, small bits of news can send something in another direction, whether it alters it, of course, or good or not. But I don't know. I think it's, you know, Plan B's very much got his head switched on. It looks like we're entering the blue phase. Is it you know, that chart where it's like blue, and you know, we're seeming like, you know, it's approaching the halvening. I hope it's true. I hope you know, on the approach to May, it smashes it, and then, you know, and infinity and beyond. But yeah, no, Plan B does some very good content. Yeah.
No, you know, I think trading in Bitcoin is actually picking up a lot this year. You know, you're seeing, for me, it's quite interesting how Binance have launched their own futures contract. Just recently, they crossed $1 billion a day worth of trading volume. And, you know, that contract is only about 50 days old, 45, 50 days old. And, you know, they're already eating into the market share of BitMEX and Huobi and other few big futures derivative exchanges. You know, I think at the moment, you know, BitMEX do provide a lot of the use case of speculation for Bitcoin at the moment. You know, they cross $10, $12 billion a day of trading as a record, but I think competition's only a good thing. And, you know, I think other derivative operations, especially in the US, are backed. You know, I think they've only just started to pick up. I think they crossed 1,000 Bitcoin a day, but Trace Mayer a couple of weeks ago, he said that he could see that contract hitting 20,000 Bitcoins a day traded. And, you know, there's, I think Bitcoin's new biggest advocate is Jack Dorsey as well at the moment of Twitter. I mean, I'm not sure what you think. Do you know much about his project?
Yeah, so I think he's really good what he's done. He's hired Matt Corella, hasn't he? And he's got kind of a small ninja team of, like, I think they were like hiking through the desert or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's awesome. He's a very big proponent. I think he's invested heavily in Lightning as well, or he's invested in Lightning companies. Sorry, and I think that having anyone who's in a position of authority and not just appeal to authority, because obviously that's a fallacy, well, a logical fallacy, but he's someone who's listened to. He's someone who's built one of the biggest, like, you know, news bite information sites in the world, or the biggest, and he's someone who's massively behind it and saying, look, I've made my wealth from the internet, and the internet needs Bitcoin. And I think that resonates with people. That really gives it a bit of legitimacy.
Yeah, especially as opposed to, you know, Facebook and Libra kind of doing their own kind of seemingly centralized type projects. I know they have a plan to become distributed and decentralized, but I think proof's kind of in the pudding, and, you know, until it happens, I'm much more a fan of the other open public blockchains, at least proof of work based at the moment. I think those are both the most more exciting projects.
I think I go through waves, to be honest. Like, every day is a new opinion. I think ultimately, if I was to ask myself, would Libra be better for people than what is currently available? And I think it's a yes. It's not as good. It's obviously categorically blah, blah, blah. Nothing to do. Nothing as good as Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the best. All those caveats. But is it better than what's currently there? Yes. Then cool, go for it. Bitcoin's going to win anyway. I don't give a shit. Bitcoin's going to win whatever comes out. You know, Ethereum 3.0, Bitcoin's still going to win. But so if Libra's out there doing whatever and also help people are getting educated, I think it can be a good thing. I don't know.
Competition is never a bad thing, I think.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, everyone's free to compete. I think, you know, that's part of the philosophy of Bitcoin itself.
Yeah.
If you want to use it, you can. If you don't want to use it, you want to use something else, you can. And but if you want to use a centralized, unlimited printing fiat system, then you can go and use that as well. But that's not my cup of tea, to be honest. So
exactly. I don't like the volatility of fiat as well compared to, you know, against Bitcoin. Fiat goes up and down against Bitcoin, but Bitcoin just stays one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, and it's crazy, isn't it? And so was it 250? You're saying 250 billion. The ECB, that was the US government printing. The ECB, they're going to do quantitative easing again. I haven't really been keeping up with them.
Yeah, so I saw some statistics on Mario Draghi. He's obviously just finished off his role as the head of the ECB, but under his stewardship, I don't know how many trillions they printed out and things, but like governments around the world, they're just some money printing machines, to be honest. But for me, the thing which enrages me the most is that I feel like they're doing the money printing, but they're giving it straight to the very richest and the banks and the corporations, not the people. I'm a big fan of a chap in the States called Andrew Yang. I'm not sure if you know of him.
Yeah.
Part of the Yang Gang.
Yang Gang, yeah.
Yeah, Yang Gang. But his policy is really about giving $1,000 a month to every
universal basic income.
Universal basic income. And, one of the things taglines he always says is when they made the decision back in 2008 to bail out the banks for $4 trillion, nobody was running around going, where are we going to get the money from? How are we going to pay for it? They just did it. They found the money overnight. So if they can't do that, I'm a big fan of smaller governments, and I'm a big fan of, if you're going to, there's no people better to spend your money, to be able to work out how to spend your money yourself than the people, rather than big government programs. So I'm hoping things like this. So big out the Yang Gang, and
just a very good point you say that about it suddenly only just occurred to me then when you said, when they needed to bail out the banks, they just pulled the money out of their asses. And you're like, whoa, like there's like war. Well, okay, no, obviously they pulled money out of their asses to create war, but there's like famine and shit and like people dying and stuff. And why can't we where's the money out of the ass? Let's get some money, get your asses and get the money out of the ass. And like, it's like the same with the what's it, not the Mont Saint Michel, what's Notre Dame. Yeah, like 300 million.
All the donations.
Yeah, that's
to be honest, I think that had way more to do with the tax write-off for billionaires and things like that.
Oh, do you think? Yeah.
But the current
charity's a tax write-off, isn't it?
Yeah, the current monetary system is so incoherent at the moment. I think there's one set of rules for corporations, and one of the good things, I was actually speaking to the chaps here from the Isle of Man who are here. They're attracting new businesses and crypto projects and Bitcoin-based projects to come over there. And I think an interesting thing that's happening is this regulatory, sorry, I can't think of the right word here. So regulatory arbitrage, which is happening, which is basically like what actually happened with the corporations maybe about 10 years ago is you had all these Apple and Amazon, all these big companies. They were thinking, right, where do we set up headquarters? So they go over to Switzerland and say, oh, what tax rate will you offer us? Oh, it'll be 5% or whatever. Oh, let me go over to Ireland. Oh, you're going to give me 0? Okay, I'll place my head office. And they played these countries against off each other to get the lowest tax rates they can. And actually, that's happening now for crypto at the moment. So you've got this crypto regulatory arbitrage playing out, where if you don't like, you can essentially go jurisdiction shopping. And as long as you're willing to provide jobs and, base some funds and help the economic growth of these small island nations like Malta and Isle of Man and Seychelles, and Bermuda, they're willing to open up the arms and come there. And, the SEC and these other powerhouse so-called regulators, they should be worrying about, jobs and the growth moving away from them to other places. So hopefully it will cause them to step up their game. But I think it's a fascinating concept, this regulatory arbitrage. And I think crypto is really, make a lot of case from it.
I think it is a shame how, you think about how many people have probably been put in prison because of tax evasion who are earning under 50K compared to how many have been, I was going to use the MF word then, but I restrained. Which is really good. The last time I restrained from swearing was when I was at Stonehenge, and I almost swore at the security guard when I had my Bitcoin flag and he wanted to take it away. But I went, and then I almost swore, and he went, "You almost swore at me," and I was like, "Yeah, I almost swore. That wasn't that good. I showed restraint. Sorry, just constraint." Sorry. So what was I going to? The fact that the companies can negotiate. Someone goes to court, they're not going to negotiate. It's like, yo, you pay this bill, or that's it, screwed. You're going to go in jail. Sorry. Time out. Whereas a corporation, no one's heads rolls. There's you can finger point enough so that you the responsibility acts like a Tor network where no one's responsible. No one's responsible. No one's responsible. Yeah, and that's what really bugs me about the system. And you kind of think, well, in terms of the taxing system, if why don't we just have the flat rules and then people can go and choose without this negotiation, without countries playing off against each other. You know, and it was like, what, 3 years ago that Google, they obviously based in Ireland, of course, and they made, I think, something like $5.2 billion of revenue in the UK, but they what do you call it? They invoiced $5.4 billion by like Google Ireland. So basically, they lost 200 million. It was something stupid like that.
Yeah.
You know? You're like, come on. And people saying, oh, you've got to jump down on these guys because, you know, it's ridiculous. We're losing the money, which we are. And the argument is, well, they're going to go elsewhere. And like, well, they might go elsewhere, but then they'll lose 5 billion of revenue from the UK. Like, so, like, do you think that they're going to go, oh, well, let's try and set up somewhere else, but then not have the UK as a market? You know, I don't know.
It's a crazy system at the moment. You know, I always think that for the very wealthy and the big corporations, tax is something. It's an optional thing whether they want to pay or not.
Yeah.
And you know, all they really need is to be able to pay the accountancy fees, the lawyer fees in another country which is a bit of a tax haven.
Yeah.
Who are looking for the jobs, who are looking for the business, and you know, you can go and set yourself up there, and you can do that. And you know, for me, the future of taxation has to be a VAT tax. You know, that's a consumption-based tax is the only thing which I think is kind of fair.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a system that can kind of work. So, you know, that's kind of the only tax that I'm kind of in favor of. But as I said, I also think that government's responsibility should be to give things back to the people. I think things like a UBI and things like that are massively important things. And for me, this is the future where I see the role of governments kind of looking after the people rather than looking after the elite in the society, because that's not really the society falls at the moment.
And I think, you know, people go on about the death spiral of, you know, the mining death spiral, which obviously didn't happen because that's dumb as fuck. Pardon me. Oh, God. There you go. It's ruined it now. Swore. Explicit material. But there's the mining death spiral. There's like, there seems to be